The pressure to make a profit in business and to stay competitive as a nation has never been more intense. That's why leaders today are taking a hard look at what can give them the competitive edge.
1952 to 1982, our gross national product increased 2.5 times, while 15 U.S. companies had a net income increase of more than 23 times. Why? During these same years, if you'd invested $30,000 in a Dow Jones composite, the return on investment would have been about $130,000. While if you'd invested the same $30,000 in those 15 companies, $2,000 in each, you'd have had a return on investment of more than $1 million. Why? Because these companies were values-driven companies. Typically, the values of the leader or the founder himself. They were companies that had principles and beliefs that they refused to compromise. They had documented codes of ethics. They were socially responsible companies. Ethics in business, it pays. It's more profitable, more productive, and more harmonious. Wouldn't it be great if this was true of all of our businesses in our society? But unfortunately, those 15 companies are a minority. In reality, across the spectrum of institutions today, business, government, religion, education, and family, we see a rapid decline in values and ethics. In fact, we're confronted with a values crisis. We're off course. Someone needs to bend the rudder. Along with a growing network of business leaders, let me ask you to consider for the next few moments how you can not only contribute to your company's profitability, but how you can personally be a part of correcting the values and ethics crisis today. You, the individual business leader, have a unique opportunity to help bend the rudder. The call is very simple, but it's demanding. It's to provide a role model in your daily business activities derived from an absolute value source. Bill Kneger, a member of our advisory council, is such a leader. As you know, Bill also chairs the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, formerly the managing partner of Arthur Young, and currently chairman of their advisory council. Listen to Bill and other business leaders as they present the issues at an international symposium on ethics in Dallas, Texas, in October of 1987.
Business continues to be haunted by a succession of spectacular headlines involving failures in its midst. Failures of business leadership to make the morally correct decision in its day-to-day affairs. It should be no surprise that recent public opinion polls reflect a belief that most businessmen are crooks. Let me repeat that. Most businessmen are crooks. Maybe no surprise, but it still really hurts. Massive public cynicism generated a decade ago by Watergate and by all the revelation of slush funds and corrupt practice just has not abated.
This current state of unethical practice contradicts the fundamental values of our country. Our country was founded upon strong Judeo-Christian values. James Madison, primary drafter of the Constitution, said, "We would not even have a Constitution if it were not for the intervention of God." So practical is this rich heritage of values that every piece of currency reflects the prosperity which has come from trust in God. Basic values of honesty, integrity, and ingenuity were the bywords for a good reputation, solid family, and prosperous business. The Judeo-Christian work ethic made business prosperous. Many companies still embrace that ethic. Individuals like J.C. Penney personally built his business on the golden rule of treating his employees and customers as he would want to be treated. The penny stores were often referred to as golden rule stores. These and many other values-driven leaders became building blocks of productive enterprise. Today, as we negotiate our way through an increasingly complex culture, there is a nagging sense that something is seriously amiss. Today, our culture increasingly tolerates lack of integrity, even expects it. Even our laws designed to protect liberty and justice are yielding to avenues of personal gain. For many, the law has become the final definition for moral business practice.
I have some firm opinions about the ethical standards of legal practice in the United States. And I am sad to tell you that, in my opinion, 40 or 50 years ago, practicing law was an honorable profession.
On a broad scale, America's productive values are crumbling. Our traditions no longer command the respect or give the guidance to the relevant issues of today. Even as recently as the late 1950s, personal integrity was regarded as fundamental to being in business or being a professional. Tom Hamilton reflects on a late 1950s article in Fortune magazine about Wall Street law firms. He cites a quote by one of the senior partners.
When we go down to the Securities and Exchange Commission, all we have to sell is our integrity. If we tell them it's raining, they don't have to go look out the window. And that struck a responsive chord with me because I was already totally convinced that no matter where an attorney went, all he really had to sell was his integrity. And if he didn't have that, then the arts didn't have a keystone.
Today, a business person with a reputation for integrity may well be the exception rather than the rule. Thus, we find ourselves faced with an epidemic of unethical business practice that is eroding the roots of business itself. Of greater concern is the cause. Fewer and fewer leaders consciously govern their daily business activities by a proven and solid value system. Fewer and fewer leaders see integrity as the issue.
So, and all of this is happening as a result of no fixed values. We're allowing our culture to adopt new values as time goes on relative to whatever we think is appropriate for today.
These values change to fit the circumstances. There are no absolutes, no benchmarks, only the fog of personal opinion.
We can all see the breakdown in the home and in family training, in community life, and in the positive aspects of peer pressure. As a committed Christian myself, I have a deep concern with the lack of impact in our daily business life of the deep roots the U.S. has inherited from its Judeo-Christian beginnings. What we hear today in our country, when we talk about standards and fundamentals in decision-making, all too often are the words situational ethics, relational ethics, or doing what one feels good about.
So what went wrong? How do we get off course? The change took place over a period of about 3 to 4 decades. We came out of the 30s with a value system based on the traditional work ethics, produced a great economy, but this very economic success resulted in conflict with the work ethic. And we began to develop a philosophy of, if it feels good, do it, situation ethics, and that didn't satisfy us. And we went into the so-called terrible 60s with the development of an anti-establishment type value, a challenger value. Let's tear it down and do it over again. And that didn't work. And currently we find ourselves with a distrust in most of our value systems, a nation of people with confused value systems. And our slogan might very well be, when all else fails, just lower your standards. And so our values continue to decline, and someone needs to bend the rudder. The business leader is in a strategic position today to affect social change, probably more so than any other institution. Why? Because it's the business world that provides the resources necessary for the other institutions to survive. The business leader has an accountability, profit, and in the free enterprise system, a violation of the values upon which the free enterprise system was established is not acceptable, not from a standpoint of profitability, production, and harmonious relationships. What is the solution? How do we bend the rudder? Well, we need to get back to the basics. As Vince Lombardi said, this is a football. Back to fixed, unchanging, proven value systems, historically accepted, the genesis of the Judeo-Christian faith, the Ten Commandments. It's an absolute value system. It's based on a divine connection. It's the only system that produces the optimum environment for true profitability, productivity, and harmonious relationships. It's right, and it works. In the words of Ted Koppel of ABC, and I quote, "When Moses came down off the mountaintop, he didn't bring the 10 suggestions."
A group of business leaders have recognized this need and established Executive Leadership Foundation, a nonprofit organization whose purpose is this: to effect social change through a network of executives who apply absolute values in their personal and professional lives. These 12 leaders are a diverse group of business and professional men whose geographic representation spans from East to West Coast, as well as Australia. Their common commitment to the purpose of social change through absolute values has been the basis for their involvement. Through the leadership of these men, the Foundation has developed tools based on absolute values as revealed in the 10 Commandments. The values are tested through practical business application by the business leaders themselves. These applications are capsulized in the 10 Commandments for business. The tools were developed to enable business leaders to lead effectively by absolute values, and thus to revitalize our companies and our economy for the long term. The Model Code of Ethics systematically addresses values which must be managed and protected in day-to-day business activity, and which can be adapted to your specific industry needs.
The more you personalize the application of the absolute values to meet your own business needs, the better prepared you are to make the right and the most profitable decision in highly pressured and emotional situations.
Absolute values are valuable for making individual business decisions. When applied company-wide, they create an ethical climate for doing what is right, even if profits fall.
So I had to, in a way, de-emphasize the financial profit and re-emphasize the more basic idea of doing it right and letting the profit fall.
Roger Stull was willing to accept the worst financially in order to preserve his own integrity and the integrity of his employees.
Operating by absolute values does not automatically increase your bottom line. In fact, it may result in a short-term loss. But in the long term, companies that function from absolute values, whether they recognize them as absolute values or not, have a history of longevity and profitability. But the call for leadership is not to companies or institutions. The call is to the individual business leader.
That's why there's one absolutely inviolable truth, in my opinion. The tone of a company's ethical behavior is set at the top. CEO sets the ethical base for the entire organization.
Absolute values alone provide a path of integrity and productivity good for individuals, businesses, and the nation.
Addressing the issues of having a corporate credo and having values based on biblical absolutes not only applies to the country, to society, and the company you work for, but also to yourself, because you're the one that makes the pace, you're the one that sets out the rules by which you're going to operate. So I found out the hard way, and I'm still battling. It still is a real tough problem for me to sort out just what are the priorities from day to day. It's very hard to say, should I be here or should I be there, or should I be taking some time off to be with the family? All I can say is that it's a battle I'll probably fight the rest of my life and probably never win, but at least I'm conscious of it, and I'm trying to ensure in our company that individuals are protected for their rights, that they have adequate time off, and that our demands on their time are such that they do have opportunities to be involved in things other than just their work.
Basic American Medical is a public company of about 5,000 employees that has recently completed a successful installation of a code of ethics based on absolute values. Ethan Jackson, capsulizes his own motivation for the installation with a quote by the dean of a well-known business school.
If I really believe my value system is right, I should be willing to verbalize it, apply it, and put it foremost in my leadership role. Followers do not set the standards. Leaders set the standards that change a society. I urge those with a value system to be leaders.
The Foundation has developed some tools to help you meet this challenge. The Executive Guide is a daytimer-sized booklet to help internalize and personalize absolute values. The Model Code of Ethics will enable the business leader to apply the Code of Ethics in his company regardless of size. The Absolute Ethics Pamphlet is a basic philosophy statement of the Foundation, and it can be used in conjunction with other publications to promote absolute ethics. In addition, we have a newsletter, the Executive Leadership Report, which will announce symposiums and other network activities of the Institute for Absolute Ethics. I urge you to accept this challenge, to personalize, to apply, to promote absolute ethics in your personal and professional life. There's never been a more opportune time or greater moment to bend the rudder than right now.